Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform where we talk with a variety of teachers, entrepreneurs, spiritualists, uplifters, givers, shakers, and serenaders. Everyone has a lesson to learn and a lesson to share. Let's use our life experiences to enrich someone's heart, mind, spirit, and soul. Through sharing our experiences, we can be a learning inspiration for one another. I'm your host, Chris Levens. Let's welcome today's guest. Today's guest is Zoe Thompson from Phoenix Coaching, a British coach, helping people who feel stuck, frustrated, and overwhelmed to create the tomorrow they want while learning to love their today, using a variety of coaching tools and techniques. Zoe is also a mom, likes to read and travel, and enjoys a good gym class to empty the stress bucket. Let's give a warm welcome to Zoe Thompson.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Hello to you. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And thank you for taking some time out to be a guest here on Glass Half Full. We really appreciate having you today.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on.
We're going to jump right on in. The first question I like to ask all our guests is, I believe that our lives are in spiritual design. Can you share your life layout or blueprint with everyone? How you grew up, where, your family lifestyle?
Sure. So I am 40 and a couple of extra few years added onto that. I'm born and bred in Bristol in the UK. So it's in the southwest, just kind of near the border with Wales. And yeah, I've always lived in Bristol, although I do love to travel. I've never really had any need to move outside of Bristol, so it's quite nice to be able to be based here. My family are here. I've got a sister who's got 3 young children. My mum and stepdad live in Bristol. My dad and stepmom live in Cyprus. They've lived out in Cyprus for just under 20 years now. And my son, who actually turns 20 today, is out in the States at the moment. So he's out in prep school playing basketball in America. So we're kind of based in Bristol, but scattered a little, which is nice because it gives me lots of opportunity to travel. But yeah, I've always been in Bristol. I worked from the age of 18 with the police. So I did 20 years with the police service here in Bristol and sort of the surrounding areas. And then, to cut a very long story short, was made redundant back in 2017 and took all of the best bits of all of the different roles that I'd done with the police and created Phoenix. So been doing that full time since 2017. So just coming up to 5 years.
Wow,
so
congratulations.
Thank you. That's me in a nutshell, I guess.
Nice. And tell us about Phoenix.
So Phoenix, as I said, was kind of created in 2017. I was really fortunate with the police. I did lots and lots of different roles and was in leadership from quite a young age, I guess, sort of in my 20s, and then senior leadership in my 30s. Mm-hmm. But whilst I enjoyed leadership, I enjoyed mostly sort of that people development part of the role, and had sort of secondary roles as mentor, self-development trainer. So when I was told I was being made redundant, I took all of those bits, and I really enjoyed the change as well. The last role that I had was business change manager. Mm-hmm. So I really enjoyed kind of helping support people through change, but also helping businesses through change as well. So Phoenix initially was going to be nutrition coaching, but I worked out pretty quickly that it's not just about telling people what to eat and creating food plans. A lot of it is about mindset. A lot of it is about relationship with food and drink and lifestyle change. So it kind of evolved quite quickly from nutrition into lifestyle and well-being. And in the last sort of 2 years, I've picked back up the leadership coaching. I wanted some time out from the corporate world for a little bit. I wanted to be able to sort of find my own feet, shape a business that I really wanted. And I didn't want to sort of stay in a world that was too familiar. So I made a real sort of purposeful decision to step away from it. Mm-hmm. But in the last 12 months, 2 years, I've had opportunities come my way to work with businesses, work with leaders and managers, but also work with staff around wellbeing as well. And it's been great to be able to get back into the business world, albeit from the Phoenix perspective and working as a coach. So Phoenix is it's got a real variety of people that I work with. I work with teenagers right up through to people who are grandparents and great grandparents. I work with men, women. So it's a real diverse group of people, but it is the stuck, the frustrated, and the overwhelmed is the common theme. So it's more a psychographic rather than a demographic.
Nice. Very nicely explained as well. So as a life coach, how do you stay energized? Mentally, spiritually, is there some type of regimen that you're doing daily? How does this work that you can be energized enough to be able to give to others?
Yeah, so important. But as you mentioned in the introduction, the gym is really important to me. So I'm really fortunate that I get to create my own schedule. So I tend to commit to certain gym classes, and I try and do a gym class most days, and then clients work in and around that. So I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. I love basketball. I love going to watch basketball. That's a great stress reliever. Although sometimes it puts stress into the bucket, depending on which way the game is going.
Right. If you got some bets hanging out there, right? It's true.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do enjoy that. I love walking. I love visiting different places. Music is a huge energizer for me.
Nice.
But I think the most important thing is just kind of protecting myself in between clients, of making sure that I don't take the energy from one individual into the next session, whether that's a high energy level or a lower energy level, just kind of making sure that I go into those sessions in a very neutral state to be able to support and really sort of tune in and connect with each individual each time. But yeah, music is a great one for me. Now I quite often will have music playing in between clients and just kind of take that little bit of a time out.
How much time do you need to basically to desensitize yourself or to release everything to step into the next client?
I normally allow an hour between each one, but it all depends on the client. So I get to work with some amazing people, and even though sometimes the sessions can be quite tough, it can still be quite energizing when you see people are moving forward, even though that the conversation can feel quite challenging, and you have to kind of really tune into what that person is saying and how they're saying it, and their body language as much as their words. So it takes effort, it takes energy and focus, but sometimes that can be energizing in itself. So yeah, I'm really lucky that the people that I get to work with quite often will energize me, but it is really important to make sure that I allow that space for when it's needed to be able to take that time out and walk away from it, do something different, and then come back.
Just to reset yourself, just to have a chance. And you're working alone, right? There's no team member or another person that you're working with besides you and the client. Is that correct?
Yep, just me. I do have somebody who helps me out with some of the admin social media side, but no, just in terms of client conversation, engagement, connection is all me, myself, and I, the team.
Nice. And I guess this would still count as a confidentiality, like it would be with any regular type of doctor or anything. Whatever they tell you, I guess you're bound not to share that out with other people. We have certain guidelines. So there's certain things that we have to disclose. So certainly from a safeguarding perspective, if the client talks about hurting themselves or hurting other people, then we can step outside of that. But when I sign up to work with people, I give them a full disclosure of these are the areas that I am permitted to step outside of that confidentiality. And because I work with young people as well, so quite often if I'm working with somebody who's under 18, I will have that conversation with them and their parent or their guardian before we start any coaching sessions to say, look, it's really important that you feel that this is a safe space. However, there may be an occasion where I may need to disclose what you've said to protect you. But I do
I do kind of make that promise as much as I can that I will have that conversation with the individual before I take any action. So they're not in the dark with things. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, I think that's great.
They have to feel that that's a safe space. They have to feel that that's a space that they can speak freely and without judgment and be able to talk through, everything that's going on in their mind, in their heart. That's all really important. But at the same time, safeguarding is also incredibly important. So it's that bigger picture. But it's that, for me, it's about open, honest communication and saying, if I do feel that that's important, that I might need to do that, I will have that conversation with you first so you know what's happening.
No, the transparency is everything. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. What kind of goals are you setting now to affect a better and more productive future?
It's such an interesting question and really well timed, actually, because I spent an hour this morning tuning into a webinar about being able to create content that will, that sort of passive evergreen content to be able to support people who maybe not in a position to work with me or not ready for coaching just yet. And so I always said right from the very beginning that it was really important for me to make coaching inclusive. And, whether that's being able to work with people remotely so that people can log on in an evening when children are in bed or when dependents are in bed, that they don't have to travel. And I was working online right at the very beginning. I feel like I'm an early adopter of Zoom because I was working online before COVID. So although lots of people didn't know about being able to coach and work online, it was a service that I offered. So actually when COVID happened, I didn't need to make too many changes.
Nice.
But I think what's important for me is that people have access to information that can help and support them. So even if they're not yet ready to step into coaching, that there is content available to them. So I provide a lot of free resources, but also in terms of content, sort of courses, programs that people can do at their own time, at their own pace, in their own homes, wherever they feel most comfortable. So my goal at the moment is to be able to expand that. And also from a business point of view, I want to be able to work with as many people as possible. And one-to-one is always going to be restricted because of the number of hours in the day.
True.
And also just from an energy perspective of, 3-4 people a day is kind of the limit. So that's my goal at the moment, is to be able to expand how I work with people in a way that means people can have access to that information, but I'm not working 24/7. And also I can work wherever in the world. So I want to be able to travel. So that's really important for me to find a business that means that I get to do what I love, but I get to do it wherever.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And, ideally you are being able to be in everyone's living room, everyone's home, anyone who has a computer, anyone who has a tablet. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And from a wellbeing perspective, I think there's lots of support is needed at the moment, and it's also needed in different ways. And I think it's great. There's lots of wellbeing coaches out there, but we all work slightly differently. We all deliver that content and that information in different ways. So for me to be able to provide that content online for people to be able to access when they're ready to step into that, wherever they are, is really important.
Yes, you're onto it. That is so fantastic, because that's what we want. And, I think a lot of people feel stuck, that they don't have that flexibility sometimes to be able to, make, like you say, you can make your own schedule. You're able to still have a life outside of your job. And to me, that is everything, because if you have that freedom outside of your job, you can give more when it's time to really get down and get to work. You don't feel robbed by not having any time or not having enough personal time. So it sounds like you have really found your niche.
Yeah, it feels like it's getting that way. I mean, like I said, it'll be 5 years in August, and every year's been very different, but every year's been great in its own way. Every year's had some learning, every year's had some challenges, but also every year's had some opportunities too. And I think that's the great part about being able to really seize and jump on those opportunities and grow and evolve myself personally, professionally, but also the business as these things have come in. So it's been great.
Well, it sounds like you've been doing the work. So reap that fruit. Definitely. It sounds like you have been doing the
Yeah.
work, and that's it. We have to put in to be able to get out. And, 5 years, that's great. I mean, they say a business after 2 or 3 years, you'll know if you'll make it or not. So you've passed that point and you're excelling in
Yeah.
the ideas and things that you have. Really great. Really great. Y'all hear that? Phoenix Life Coaching, y'all, .co.uk. We didn't jump to that yet, but just in case y'all wanted it early. Just in case they wanted it early. Nice. Let me ask you, who has been the most influential person in your life?
It's really hard to pin down an individual for that. I've met so many people over so many years, that have all influenced and inspired, and I've that people that I've learned from in so many different ways, and I think, interestingly, I would even say that at the moment, some of the young people that I've worked with have inspired me, even though they are working through their own challenges, that the way they show up into the world, that confidence to speak up for things that are really important to them, that's been really inspiring. But I've been so lucky to meet so many people. I don't know that I could pin it down to one person. I think I've learned from everyone that I've met, and I think that's probably a bit of an approach that I like to take, is that there's something to learn from everybody.
Sure,
and I think I love meeting and talking to people, as you are finding out here, but I think there's something to learn from everybody, and I think whether that's learning from them about their experiences or something that they've done, or you learn about yourself when you connect and spend time with that person. And I think I can't pin it down to one person.
Nice.
Sorry.
Nice. Well, you didn't have to. Some people do. They can just be like, my 6th grade teacher from, Mount Paul Elementary School. But, sometimes it is a lot of people who have been influential. So there's no wrong answer. Not at all. Not at all. Can I ask you, what does the word surviving mean to you?
If I look back on my own experiences, I think when I was in survival mode, it was very much about just getting up, getting through the day, and then sleep and repeat. And there wasn't anything in there that was fulfilling or anything that I could get excited about. It felt almost kind of that grey, dull, just almost like a rinse and repeat 24-hour, for quite a long period of time. And I think that survival is just all of your energy goes into getting through the day, that you don't have the energy to put into the things that you want. So it becomes very much about just kind of keeping that focus on what gets you through the day and what gets you into the next day. And I think for me, the sign of when you're coming through that is that you start to have energy to put into something else. You start to have the energy to get excited about other things that are going on. And I think when you're in survival mode, you don't have the energy for that. Everything, all of that energy, all of that focus is just purely in getting through every 24 hours.
So at this point in your life, what changed that you weren't surviving, that you were living?
I think it was just lots of small steps. And you just start to get that momentum, don't you? And I remember it on my own journey, but I also see it in clients that I work with as well. There's that initial daunting first step that feels really scary because it's new and it's different and it feels big, even though you kind of chunk it down with them into the smallest possible step. But once they start that momentum, there's that almost 2 parts for me, especially with working with people, when you see that bit where you just know that they've finally recognized that they can. There's that element where you just see that switch go on.
Aha moment.
That I can do this I can do. And then there's that little bit that comes after that where it's like, I did it. And I think that there's lots of small steps that come in between those two moments. But I think once you get that momentum, that is almost that motivation, isn't it, to keep going. So it's, quite often discipline to start with, and then the results of the discipline really motivate. But you get really excited about the next challenge. Rather than fearing what comes next, you get excited about what comes next.
The unknown or what might, yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Let's play a little fill in the blank. The first one I'll ask, I'm most free when I...
outside in fresh air.
Yes. Is this with a mask or without a mask? Just kidding.
Without a mask is good, but yeah, safety first.
yes, right. Okay, nice. Now, are you a outdoorsy? I know you said you like to do walks. Are you living somewhere where you can be outside? Is the weather decent? Is it, because in England, you guys, the weather's not that.
It's decent at the moment. Okay. It could change within the next hour. Yesterday we had sunshine and we had hail and we had snow all in a 12-hour period. So
are you serious?
Yeah, England's great for that. With 4 seasons in a day, you never know quite what to wear or what coat to take. But I live in the city, but we're very fortunate. We've got lots of parks in Bristol and we've got the harbour. So there's places to go out and walk.
Okay.
But it's always something that I do if I'm going away and I'm visiting somewhere. I try to walk everywhere as much as possible. So just think you see things and take things in differently when you're out and moving.
It's so true. You can really take things in from a walk. The perspective is just different,
Yeah.
And
yeah,
just
absolutely.
taking the time, compared to being in a car or something of that sort where things are just going by. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice.
Agree.
Okay. Next. The toughest lesson I learned was...
Does the entire journey of parenting, does that count for that?
Well, hey, sure. This is what I don't have children,
no rule book
but this is what they say.
There is no rule book for parenting. I mean, I only had one, so I think that helps. I certainly speak to parents, and my sister's got 3, and that learning how to parent for different children is definitely a big challenge. I'm not. It's the toughest, but it's probably the most rewarding as well.
My mom says that too, that, having children is such a blessing. It's so rewarding.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. I've got a great relationship with my son. I think the hardest thing is that it just is always evolving. You think you get in the hang of it, and then they reach their next stage, and you have to learn to parent in a different way again. To support them. And like right now, as I said, he's 20, he's in the States, and he's making decisions on his own life now, and he knows that I'll always be there to support, but just not involved in the same way. And especially having been a single parent, where you're always the one, you're always that person, you're always the go-to. Yeah, it's different. It changes, but it's the biggest challenge. But yeah, definitely the most rewarding. When you grow a decent human being, there's nothing that kind of matches that, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look. For you, Mom. Yes. I grew up in a single parent at home, and my mom, I couldn't imagine having 2 parents. My mom was tough, and it was enough just for the one. So, and we turned out just fine. In fact, better than some people who had 2 parents in their household.
Yeah.
She worked
That's
hard.
tough, isn't it?
Yeah, she worked hard and just still, really put forth us to be, proper, respectable people in the world. And my grandmother, too. We lived next door to my grandmother, so she helped raise us as well. And many things that she taught me, I'm so grateful for. That, in Japan, everybody's like so shocked that I can do everything. I can wash my own clothes. And, the housewife job here is a real job. So a lot of the men don't know how to do the cooking or the washing or the cleaning. And they're like, oh, you can do it all, Chris. And I'm like, yeah. Like my brother can too. Like this is how we were raised, that we are, we're able to learn everything. So I'm grateful for those lessons in today's time.
Yeah. And grandparents play an important role as well, don't they?
They do. So important. Yeah. Okay, the next one. I'm hardest on myself when...
Ooh, such a good question. I am hardest on myself when I don't think that I have, I guess, that reaching that full potential, when I feel like I could have done more. Interesting. I always talk about, judge on the input, not on the output.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always somebody that really strives to give 100%, whatever that 100% looks like. And it does look very different on different days, and it does look very different for different things. But I think I'm hardest on myself when I feel like I haven't given 100%.
Okay. Well, that's because you care. So that's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, that's true.
That's not a bad thing. Right? Definitely. We want to feel like we're giving our 100% every time. Now, was this something that you grew up with, this attitude, or this is something you learned and developed as you become an adult?
I think a little bit of both. I think both my parents were very encouraging. They weren't pushy parents. They were very kind of, just do your best, and your best will always be good enough.
Oh, that's nice.
But I think a lot of I think that's helped, definitely helped, because it hasn't had that pressure. But I think as I've grown and as I get more determined, and I'm just incredibly stubborn, like ridiculously stubborn. I'm an Aries. I'm headstrong, I'm driven, I'm stubborn, tenacious, all of that stuff. And in balance, it's such a healthy character to have. But I do have that tendency to kind of overplay it, and then it does get, I have to kind of remind myself to just dial it back down a little bit and keep it in a good balance. So I know where it comes from. It's all me. It's definitely all me, but I just have to remind myself sometimes that not everything needs to be kind of, that much. It can dial it down again and be still be a positive.
Yeah, well, at least you can catch yourself. That's the plus, because we all get wound up, right? When you have to be like, hey, bring it down. You know what I mean? Because me too, I have to talk myself down because there's nobody there, Yeah. And in the moment, I have to be like, hey, it's not that serious. Like, bring it down. And it works. And I'm able to be like, okay, to catch myself in the moment, not to let that feeling overtake me. The ego sometimes wants to jump in and just be like, hey, wait a minute.
I think my internal dialogue is often, that whole easy tiger, just take a breath here and just take a moment and see what's needed, rather than kind of what your sort of initial reaction and response is.
It's good. It's a good lesson for us in life, definitely, to be able to just catch ourselves like, wait a minute, hold up. It doesn't have to be like this today,
Yeah.
Okay, one more. The thing I love the most about myself is...
The thing I love about myself, my sense of humor, although not everybody would agree, but I think my sense of humor, I think that's my coping mechanism, always has been, of, try and find the positive, try and find the funny side, have a laugh at yourself when things go wrong. And actually, it's one thing that I always say to clients is that, we talk about some really heavy, really serious stuff, but humor is great for breaking state. It's such a great tool to be able to use in coaching sessions, when things get really heavy, really serious, to be able to say something that helps people to laugh and just relax a little bit and then go back into it. So I think my sense of humor, and my son's got my sense of humor too. So together, it's terrible, but I definitely wouldn't want to change it. I totally accept that it's not for everybody, but
now when you say that, is it like a dark humor? Is it like, how would you put it, if you could categorize it?
It definitely has been. And I think working in the police, you definitely use humor and dark humor as a coping mechanism, because you deal with heavy stuff all of the time. So humor is definitely part of that. But I think also humor is great to connect with people. And I think so much of the police work is about being able to build rapport, being able to build that connection. And I think humor helps people relax, and that then helps with connection. There's a tendency for it to be sarcastic humor, or I think that's a very British thing. I think certainly
it is.
When I've traveled, that sarcasm doesn't land always quite the same in different countries.
It's so true.
I
love it.
So you kind of tweak it a little bit.
Personally, I love it. The comedy shows, you guys take it that extra. It's like, are they going to take it there? Like, oh yeah, we're going to take it there. And we're going to step over. We're going to like jump over there. It's always a treat. It is really, really a treat. But you're right. Everybody might not feel that it's funny.
Yeah.
But I personally, it's a real treat. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it could touch on all of the elements, in fairness. I think for me, it's just about knowing your audience as well. I think
that's true.
Probably the humor that comes through with clients is probably very different to what comes through behind closed doors with friends and family, and also definitely different to what comes through when I've had a couple of glasses of red wine. The filter definitely comes off there.
I'm sure you're in.
Like, oh, okay, too much. Too much.
Yes, no worries. It happens to all of us. That's when the goods come out. The good goods.
Yeah.
Definitely. Can I ask you, do you feel that you are living in the now of life?
I try really, really hard to do that. I'm not sure the world is designed to make it easy to be able to do that, but it's definitely something that I try really, really hard to do, just to enjoy each moment and be in each moment when those things happen. But the world just throws lots of distractions, doesn't it? It makes it very easy to be distracted and let your mind wander elsewhere. So it takes a lot of effort. I really try to take time out and, put phones away and turn phones off, or even leave phones in a different room, or turn devices off, and just try and keep that attention to where I am. But that's definitely a work in progress. Definitely a work in progress. And I think part of sort of working style is to be able to multitask and be able to do different things. And I don't think that's always helpful. That actually sometimes it's really good just to be able to monotask and just really be in the moment with the one thing. But it's definitely a work in progress, but I do try.
Well, thank you for your honesty. I mean, it's as well for me. It's something that, and I feel like if it's something that you're thinking about, then you are doing it more than not, compared to some people who are not even thinking about trying to be in the moment. And, some people are stuck in the past, some people are stuck in the future, and are not sure about how they can just be in that moment to do. Do you have any tips for people on what you might give to some of your clients to relax themselves, or to just, take them out of the heavy mindset of the day, or desensitize themselves? Is there any tips that you might have?
And interestingly, it was something that came up with a client yesterday. So we spent some time working out for them what activities charge their battery and what activities drain their battery. And also what activities can they do with half a battery and which ones absolutely not. So we spent some time talking yesterday about what worked best for them. And I think that's the challenge, I think, for people to find what works best for them, because for some people, sitting on the sofa under a blanket with a really good book, that is what charges them up. That's what helps them to relax and to recharge. Whereas for somebody else, they need to be out and they need to be with people, and that's what energizes them. That's what empties the stress bucket. And I think as much as social media is fantastic, I think sometimes there's sort of that narrative around, this is what good looks like, and this is what everybody should be doing, and this is how you should be spending your day. But ultimately, you decide what works best for you, and you decide how to empty the stress bucket at the end of the day, what does work for you, and also what doesn't work for you. And I think that's pay important. Attention to your energy levels, who, what, where, what fills it up and what drains it really quickly. And I think once you know that makes it much easier to be able to plan around that, so that you've got that balance, that if you've got something that drains it, you can then match it in or add something into that day that is going to bring it back up again, so that it's a constant ebb and flow.
Wow, that is great. That is great information. You're right. And to me, knowing what doesn't work is really key. You just have to know for yourself. Just because your neighbor is doing it or everybody around you doesn't mean that it's for you. And maybe you already know that, but, sometimes going against the grain is not the thing. But yeah, just knowing what does not work for you, I think is really super key. Everybody knows what they like, but not people can't really say sometimes what they don't like, so. Awesome. Can I ask you, what phrase would you use to describe your journey in life thus far?
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Ooh, all right now. Break it down for us. Break it down for us. I love that.
It's also probably, I would say that if you spoke to anybody that knows me, they'd say the thing that I say the most is, it is what it is.
Oh, snap. I say that too.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. That's one of my comments too. It is
what it is. I think that's such a great expression of just, and you can say it in so many different ways. Like, it is what it is, or it is what it is, or it is what it is. I think it's just that element of like, actually, there's nothing you can do about it. So you can sit here and put all of your energy and all of your focus into something that you have no control, no influence over, or you can just accept that this is done, it's happened, and take the learning from it and move on. So I think if the thing that I say the most is, it is what it is. But I think to answer the actual question that you asked, it would be, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
I love that.
That's a game changer.
Yes, we have to. And, in that uncomfortability space is where we grow, is where we really break the chains, and we really have a chance to elevate ourselves and move forward. But a lot of people are just too afraid to get uncomfortable. They just don't want to be. And I'm like, you got to get dirty if you really want to get it done. Like, playing cute has never got people anywhere. So I love that.
You just got to roll your sleeves up and just get in and get involved in it. And I think the more you avoid it, the worse it feels.
Yes.
That avoidance doesn't help. And that, again, there's something, isn't there, about the narrative at the moment. I don't know whether it's, I don't feel that it's just a UK thing. I feel it's more of a global thing, that avoidance of being uncomfortable, that being uncomfortable isn't okay, but actually being uncomfortable is okay.
Yes.
Life is not all feeling good and feeling positive and you can find the positive in things that have happened, but ultimately life is going to be as uncomfortable as it is comfortable. And if you want to move forward, then there are going to be times where it doesn't feel comfortable, but that not feeling comfortable can be a really good thing. That doesn't mean it's a negative. Mm-hmm. And I think the more you get used to that feeling, the more you open yourself up to opportunities and the more stuff in
that
life
you
happens.
Can attract to yourself. It's true.
Mm-hmm.
And social media makes it look like everything is a perfect life. There's truth on social media, but then there's really not. Like everything is good displayed. No one ever posts pictures of a horrible sandwich that they had, unless they're trying to make some joke about something. But, we're looking for the pretty moments. So if you scan across, that's all that you see, which makes it feel like, it's not really as real as that. Life, it's not always up. And when it's down, how do we handle that? And what do we do when, you're not feeling up to it today? You feel like, well, that's fine. It's no big deal. So being able to handle those dips as well as those rises is important. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, social media is heavily filtered, and then it's not just heavily filtered, it's also designed to put on your feed what it is that you want to see to fit the narrative that you already have. So if you want to change the narrative, you actively have to go and look elsewhere for the posts that change and give you that different perspective. So, I think social media has lots of qualities when we use it in a mindful and purposeful way.
I agree.
I don't always do that. I include myself.
Thank you for your honesty on that. We appreciate it. That's great. That's great. I listened to the Purposeful Mindset episode that you did.
Okay.
And you spoke about 5 life lessons, and they were so excellent. Take action was one of the points that you made, that you just got to get in there and do it. I was like, yes. Get comfortable being uncomfortable was one that we talked about. Finding positivity in every situation, which you spoke upon. And I love that. We already, when I go to my friends and there's an issue, I'm not coming at them about you should have did this and you know what you did already. Let's try to see how we can solve this and how we can solve it. Not like what you need to do. How can we work together? What's the next step? Okay, this has happened. We can't stay here. Let's keep moving. Where we got to go from here? And people like, oh, Chris, I'm like, you can cry about it later, but we don't have to stay there. Life is still going to continue. So I'd love that point. And then be present, to give 100%. I was like, yes. And that's what you were saying. You're a person who is always trying to reach that 100% goal, to be present. And then number 5 was know your values, and your purpose. And I thought that was like a huge key, because you have to know your own value. No one is going to tell you. No one's going to tell you that. You need to know what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you need. Those are really great headers to feel like you can focus to know who you are and what you want, because sometimes the people out there, they want to decide who you are and who you should be. And you need to be able to stand in your own.
And it's so easy to be shaped by other people's values if you don't know what yours are. And I think most people probably have a good idea of what their core values are, but some of the work that I do is just sitting down with people and going, right, okay, here's 50 values. What are yours? What are your top 3? And it's often the most difficult thing that people really, really struggle over, because it's like, what is more important? But I think when you know what your values are, you understand why certain things excite you, but you also understand why certain things upset you, because you understand the filter that you're kind of seeing the world, the process or how you are processing what is happening to you goes through your values. And I think certainly from my point of view, on my own journey, I know that when, I allowed them to be, try to negotiate them, or I was way, way too flexible with what was important to me, life, it's not great. It's not a great place to be, but actually knowing what they are and running your decisions through them. We run decisions through the pros and the cons, the benefits, the risks, that, we go through all of that, but run your decisions through your values. What is it in alignment with what's important to you? Because quite often when something doesn't make sense or it feels a little bit off, it's about your values. It's not about a logistic. It's not about something that's easy to put on a pros and cons list. Actually, it's a value that's out of alignment, and you might be able to influence that and align it to your value, or that it's not in alignment, and that's almost then your permission to be able to take a step back and say, this isn't for me.
Girl, you are on fire. Yes. Yes. I was like, you better speak over here, boy. I love it. I love it. Yes. Woo. All right. Well, my final question, which I like to close with all of my guests, I'd like to ask, is your glass half empty or half full?
Half full. And it's getting fuller. It's getting fuller as time goes on. And do you know what? I know this is not, again, adding not the question, but what just popped into my head as you said that is that it's being filled with the right stuff.
Yes.
So it's not just half full, it's half full with the good stuff, with the stuff that I want in my glass.
Now that is a great answer. Yes. Because it can be filled with lots of stuff and maybe some stuff we don't need. So you feel like I want it full with the things that are good for me. That are filling that up.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Excellent. Can I ask you, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
I feel like you've had them all. You've asked really good questions. I feel like
thank you.
I feel like,
gave lovely answers.
Questions.
Thank you so much.
And and also like just being able to think things through in different ways has been great. And now hopefully that, you know, within the questions, my answers, our conversation, there's something in there for people to take away. But I think, you know, those 5 things I live by, you know, they are really important to me. But I think find your 5 things to live by, you know, find the things that are important to you and keep reminding yourself of what they are. I mean, mine are here, they're in a frame on the wall, and I remind myself all of the time of, you know, what my legacy is, what am I working towards, how do I want to show up each day, and, you know, how do I want people to see me, how do I want to be seen, because, you know, that's really important to me. So, but people need to find their own 5, you know, find the 5 that work for you, that speak to you, that are important to you, and
no, that's great. I love that you have them hanging up too, and I think that's a great way, because sometimes we need a reminder. You know, and I'm a person who posts things up as well. I'm a visual learner, and it's nice that my eyes can see, and it brings a smile to my face, and I keep it moving. But to have something like that up is nice, just to have a reference for once in a while to refresh us. Awesome. Sure. Can you tell everyone how they can reach you if they're interested to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I'm on all of the socials, so I'm in the usual places. If you head to the website, which is phoenixlifecoach.co.uk, you'll be able to find me everywhere else from there, and all the free resources are in that place as well. So that's probably the best first stop.
Okay, and that is Phoenix, PHOENIX, Life Coach, one word, all in one word, .co.uk for anyone who's writing that down. For that, and it'll be listed in the information block for this episode as well, so they'll have it down there. Yes, thank you. Well, thank you so much for being a guest here on Glass Half Full. We are so happy to have had you.
I really enjoyed chatting to you.
Yeah, you really broke down some knowledge. You gave some good information today. Yes, love it. You're so fluid. You're just like, I was like, you need to be on the podium with a microphone. Give it to her. Yeah.
I think I'm a waffler, so I'm going to take that. I'm going to take that with pride, and I'm going to hold on to that, because I thought I was a bit of a waffler. So
no, not at all. Not at all. I don't know who you've been talking to. I don't know who you've been telling you that, but no, definitely. Yes. And you have something to say. So that's the key. You know, people talking all day long, but when you really touch on things that are really something to talk about, you can't help but to listen, you know. So you keep doing what you're doing. You stay motivated, and I'm going to be looking out to see your name, be like, I know her. Just virtually, but I know her. For sure. Well, thank you so much again for being a guest. We are really grateful to have you today.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Take care. We'll see you soon. And thank you to all our listeners listening in to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform for everyone to share their life experiences. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Levens. Please subscribe, follow, and rate this podcast on Apple Music and Spotify for more learning experiences. Until next time, know you are blessed. See ya!